not so sure about our old friend here, though. Police cars just a lot faster than they used to be.
Picture this. You're settling in for Friday night TV, and suddenly there's a bright orange muscle car launching off a dirt ramp in slow motion, while a banjo plays in the background. The driver? Two cousins who treat car doors like they're optional and the speed limit like it's a suggestion. Welcome to the 1980s, where America collectively decided that watching the same car fly through the air 300 times was quality entertainment. And honestly, America nailed it. The Dukes of Hazzard was basically, what if we made crime look wholesome? The Duke boys, Bo and Luke, brought to life by Schneider and Tom Wopat, were technically criminals on probation who spent every episode breaking roughly 17 traffic laws while somehow being the good guys. They bunked with Uncle Jesse, who dispensed wisdom between moonshine runs, and their cousin Daisy, whose wardrobe choices single-handedly justified the phrase Daisy Dukes entering the American lexicon. This wasn't Emmy bait television. This was freeze frames, denim overload, and a sheriff who made Barney Fife look like a criminal mastermind. But for 7 glorious years, we tuned in to watch Sheriff Roscoe chase his own tail, boss HOGG scheme in a suit that probably required its own zip code, and that Dodge Charger defy every law of physics the writers could think of. Today, we're diving into 15 facts about the Dukes of Hazzard that'll make you see Hazzard County in a whole new light. But first, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Seriously, it helps us keep these videos coming. Now let's jump in, through the window obviously. Number 15. The movie that started it all.
Set a spell, because I want to tell you a homespun story about homemade whiskey and some down-home folks just trying to earn a dishonest living. I know you hag boys, moonshiners, troublemakers, and trash.
Long before the Duke boys became household names, before that orange Charger jumped its first ramp, before America fell in love with freeze-frame endings, there was a gritty little movie that nobody remembers called Moonrunners. Guy Waldron wrote and directed this 1975 film that basically served as the blueprint for everything Hazzard County would become. The plot? Two cousins, Grady and Bobby Lee Hagg, portrayed by James Mitchum, and Keel Martin, running moonshine for their Uncle Jesse, Arthur Honeycutt, through Shiloh County, Georgia. Starting to sound familiar yet? All the pieces were already there. A souped-up car called Traveler, a 1955 Chevy this time, not a Charger. A crooked sheriff named Roscoe Coltrane, brought to life by George Ellis. Car chases, backwoods drama, and a corrupt local dealer named Jake Rainey pulling strings behind the scenes. Oh, and Waylon Jennings narrating as the balladeer, same as the TV version. Even Ben Jones, who'd later become Cooter, shows up briefly as a federal agent from Chicago. But here's where Moonrunners diverged hard from what the TV show became. This wasn't wholesome Friday night entertainment. This was raw, violent, and people actually suffered consequences for their actions. Uncle Jesse dies. There's an affair subplot that gets messy. And yes, the cousins literally use explosive arrows to blow up a moonshine operation because apparently subtlety wasn't invented yet in 1975. When Waldron adapted his own movie for television, he basically ran everything through a sanitizer. Less bloodshed, more laughs, and those signature freeze-frame endings where nobody ever truly got hurt, no matter how catastrophic the crash looked. So yeah, the Dukes originated from a film, just with all the sharp edges filed down, the violence swapped for slapstick, and law enforcement that belonged in a Saturday morning cartoon instead of actual Georgia. But here's what that family-friendly transformation cost, literally. Number 14. The real cost of all that carnage.
Look! Hang on!
Let's be real. The Dukes of Hazzard was basically an excuse to destroy expensive cars, while occasionally remembering there was supposed to be a plot. That orange Charger launched off ramps, sailed over creeks, crashed through barns, and generally treated physics like a polite suggestion. And someone had to be inside that car when it went airborne. A real human being with real vertebrae and presumably very good life insurance. Stunt performers got wrecked constantly. Cars flipped sideways when they weren't supposed to. Jumps went wrong. Roll cages crumpled, safety harnesses failed, and unlike today's CGI-enhanced productions, these stunts were analog. Just some guy named Dave in a helmet, white-knuckling the steering wheel and probably reconsidering his career choices mid-flight. The casualties weren't limited to the stunt team. In 1980, a camera assistant named Rodney Mitchell died when his camera truck lost control in a muddy patch during filming. It's a harsh reminder that behind every slow-motion car jump and freeze-frame celebration, real people were risking everything to create those iconic moments we still remember. The show chewed through stunt drivers almost as fast as it demolished chargers. Honestly, the real MVP were probably the chiropractors and physical therapists in the greater Los Angeles area. They were booked solid for 7 years straight. Speaking of things that weren't quite what they seemed, let's talk about the show's most convincing performance, and it happened before the cameras even rolled. Number 13. The Yankee who faked his way south.
Think you're man enough to go through me? You go ahead.
I think I can go through you.
You shouldn't have to give him that direct. Wait a minute!
Talking about how John Schneider sold America on being a Georgia peach. The accent, the attitude, the whole country boy charm, it all felt authentic. Small problem. The kid was from Mount Kisco, New York, which is about as southern as a bagel with locks. He was 18, fresh-faced, and had exactly 0 credentials for playing a backwoods Georgia rebel. So naturally, he completely fabricated his entire background. The day of his audition, Schneider rolled up in a beat-up pickup truck he'd borrowed, skipped shaving for maximum scruff, threw on what he described as a funky hat, and walked in carrying a beer like he'd just finished baling hay. Then he claimed he was from Snellville, Georgia, which, fun fact, isn't even a real town. The producers bought it hook, line, and sinker, probably because his accent was thick enough to spread on cornbread. Here's the kicker. When he landed the role, he couldn't actually drive the General Lee. Not a skills issue. He literally didn't know how. They had to teach him after he was already cast. So yeah, a teenager from suburban New York pulled off one of the most iconic Southern characters in television history by showing up in costume and committing to the bit for 7 seasons. That's not just good acting, that's borderline performance art. Now, while Schneider was faking his Southern credentials, there was nothing fake about the show's most authentic piece of country culture. Number 12. The chart-topping theme song.
Let's try it. Just two good old boys. Never meaning no harm. Each song never saw any trouble with the law since the day they was born.
Number 12 brings us a song you're already humming. Don't even pretend you're not. That banjo riff is permanently lodged in your brain like a catchy virus that you actually want to keep. The Dukes of Hazzard theme wasn't just a catchy TV intro, it was a legitimate country music phenomenon. Waylon Jennings wrote and performed it, and that song climbed all the way to number 1 on Billboard's Hot Country Songs chart in 1980. But it didn't stop there. It crossed over to number 21 on the Hot 100. That's mainstream success for a TV theme song, which basically never happens. The song gave the show serious street cred, especially across the South, where country music wasn't just a genre. It was a lifestyle, and decades later, it remains one of the most instantly recognizable theme songs in television history. You can play those first 3 notes, and anyone born before 1995 will immediately know what show you're referencing. But the song's legacy didn't end when the show wrapped. It's been covered more times than most people realize. Waylon's son, Shooter Jennings, performs it live at Dukes Fests. Yes, those are real events where fans gather to celebrate all things Hazzard. John Schneider, Tom Wopat, and Catherine Bach even filmed a music video version that ended up on the Season 7 DVD. When the 2005 movie reboot happened, Willie Nelson, who played Uncle Jesse in that version, handled the vocals. The 2007 prequel film The Dukes of Hazzard, The Beginning, brought in John Anderson for a grittier Southern rock interpretation. And if you want to get weird with it, Travis Tritt covered it, Lil Wayne sampled it, and somehow Alvin and the Chipmunks got involved. Even people who couldn't name a single character from the show can sing that theme song. And let's be honest, it absolutely still holds up. So we've got a fake Southerner playing Bo Duke and a real country legend singing the theme. Now, let's talk about a fake broke farmer played by a very real millionaire. Number 11, the moonshiner with oil money.
You want to know another way to put a little life into that old car of yours? Donate it.
Uncle Jesse lived like he was one bad harvest away from eating shoe leather. The overalls, the folksy wisdom about family and hard work, the farm that always seemed 2 payments behind. Denver Pyle played it so convincingly that you'd think he was genuinely scraping by. Plot twist: the man was absolutely loaded. Before the Duke boys were even a twinkle in a writer's eye, Pyle had already made his mark on television. Most people recognized him as Briscoe Darling from The Andy Griffith Show, that mountain man with the musical family who'd roll into Mayberry and turn Andy's life sideways. But here's where it gets wild. After his Mayberry days, Pyle started scooping up abandoned oil wells that the big players had given up on. This was the early 70s, and crude oil was going for barely over $2 a barrel. Everyone thought he'd lost his mind, throwing Hollywood money into dried-up holes in the ground. Then, 1973 happened, the oil crisis hit, prices exploded, and suddenly, new drilling tech made those worthless wells profitable again. Just like that, Pyle went from character actor to oil mogul. By 1981, his petroleum portfolio had netted him more cash than 3 decades of Hollywood paychecks combined. And his response? Keep acting anyway. He literally said his TV work funded his oil speculation hobby and that he genuinely enjoyed showing up to set. Meanwhile, Uncle Jesse's worrying about feed costs for the chickens. When the Dukes wrapped in '85, Pyle kept grinding. He brought Briscoe Darling back for Return to Mayberry, popped up on Murder, She Wrote and Dallas, and even showed up in the 1994 Maverick movie as a riverboat card shark. His last gig, playing Uncle Jesse one final time in the 1997 reunion movie, filmed months before he passed away. Between acting jobs, he ran Uncle Jesse's fishing tournament down in Texas, a charity event that pulled in millions for kids' programs. Bottom line, that wise old farmer aesthetic hid a financial portfolio that could have bought Hazzard County twice over, with cash left for parking. So Uncle Jesse was secretly rich while playing poor. Meanwhile, the guys actually making the show successful were about to walk away over being paid like they were poor. Number 10. The walkout that almost killed the show.
Tonight we've got a very special guest. Someone who's been like, well, family to me. For years and years and years and years. My old buddy from the Dukes of Hazzard, Mr. John Schneider.
The Dukes was at its absolute peak. Ratings sky high, merchandise flying off shelves, total cultural phenomenon, and John Schneider and Tom Wopat walked away. The rumor mill went wild. Tabloids claimed they wanted movie careers. Some stories blamed inflated egos. But the real issue was significantly more reasonable. Money, specifically merchandise money. Their faces were plastered on everything. Lunchboxes, toy replicas of the General Lee, bed sheets, probably commemorative spoons for all we know. But they weren't seeing fair compensation for all that commercial exploitation, so they staged a walkout that would make any labor union stand up and applaud. The network's response? Cool, we'll replace you. Enter Coy and Vance Duke, played by Byron Cherry and Christopher Mayer. Same car, same formula, zero chemistry. Ratings nosedived harder than a General Lee stunt gone wrong. Fan mail transformed into angry letters. Coy and Vance were reportedly locked into multi-year contracts, but they barely survived 19 episodes of Season 5. The moment the legal dust settled and the original actors came back, the replacements vanished like they'd been photoshopped out of history. No farewell episode, no flashback clips, not even a throwaway line explaining where they went. To this day, most fans couldn't tell you which one was Coy and which was Vance if their lives depended on it. And honestly, that's probably exactly how it should be. So the show survived the replacement Duke disaster and got its authentic stars back. But there was another authenticity problem brewing, and this one was geographic. Number 9. How Hollywood hijacked Hazzard. When production kicked off in November 1978, the Dukes of Hazzard was actually filming in genuine Georgia towns: Covington, Conyers, Social Circle, Loganville. Still not Snellville, that place continues to not exist. Real dirt roads, authentic southern atmosphere, and humidity that probably melted half the crew. And if you go back and watch those first 5 episodes, something feels different. The tone's grittier, the humor's got more edge, and there's language that definitely wouldn't fly in the later family-friendly version. This was the Dukes before the network decided to sand down all the rough spots. Once Warner Brothers realized they had a potential hit on their hands, they made the most Hollywood decision possible: pack it up and move everything to California. Production relocated to Warner Brothers Burbank Studios and Disney's Golden Oak Ranch up in Newhall. Made logistics easier, gave them room to build a massive car shop because they already knew they'd be turning Dodge Chargers into disposable stunt props every week. So if those early episodes feel more authentic and less polished, that's because they genuinely were. After episode 5, Hazzard County became whatever California hillside they could dress up with some hay bales and a "Y'all come back" sign. Speaking of Georgia landmarks, the Boar's Nest is still standing in Covington, but these days it's not serving beer. It's Deliverance Christian Tabernacle. Yep, the bar where Daisy served drinks and the Duke boys started weekly brawls is now a church. The irony is so thick you could pour it over pancakes. But here's the thing about all those authentic Georgia locations and Hollywood sound stages: none of them mattered as much as what was parked outside. Number 8, the orange Charger was the real star.
Yeah, hang on.
We've got something wild. You might have loved Bo and Luke. Maybe you had a thing for Daisy like half of America did. But statistically speaking, you probably wrote fan mail to the vehicle. At peak popularity, the show was pulling in about 60,000 letters monthly. More than half were addressed to the General Lee. That's right, a 1969 Dodge Charger was generating more fan enthusiasm than the actual human actors. Kids wanted engine specs. Adults wanted purchase information. Some fans just sent heartfelt notes praising the car's performance in that week's slow-motion barn jump. The General Lee wasn't just transportation, it was a character, a brand, and a merchandising tsunami. Warner Brothers absolutely printed money off that orange paint job. So yeah, the show had some talented actors, but the breakout star was a muscle car with a horn that played Dixie and a complete disregard for its own safety. The show was a phenomenon, the car was iconic, so naturally, Hollywood thought they could recapture the magic. The original cast had other thoughts. Number 7, the original cast said absolutely not.
I'm going to reminisce with you and tell you things that you didn't know that happened in the 7 years that we shot over 150 Dukes of Hazzard episodes.
You'd think a big-budget Hollywood reboot of a beloved TV show would be the perfect opportunity for the original cast to pop in for some easy cameo money and nostalgic glory. Park that theory right in the trash. John Schneider, Tom Wopat, and Catherine Bach all received cameo offers for the 2005 film. They read the script, and they collectively noped out faster than the General Lee clearing a creek bed. When we say they declined, we're being diplomatic. They probably read about 5 pages, threw the script across the room, and questioned every life decision that led them to that moment. Ben Jones, Cooter himself, took his rejection to a whole different level. He publicly called the movie sleazy, boycotted the premiere, and announced it had absolutely nothing in common with the show's original spirit. This from a guy who spent 7 seasons elbow-deep in cars that had no business still running. When the people who built the show's legacy actively distanced themselves from a reboot, turning down easy paychecks and renewed relevance, that's not just concerning. That's a 5-alarm fire visible from orbit. The 2005 film somehow took everything charming about the original series and transformed it into something so uncomfortable that the cast wanted their names nowhere near it. That's almost impressive, just in completely the wrong direction. Alright, we're halfway through this wild ride through Hazzard County, so if you're still with us, and you clearly are, go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe. Trust me, the second half gets even weirder. Now, let's keep going. Number 6. The Duke boys never used car doors.
Around there. Hang on. Whoa. Oh, Lord. All right, now. Just give her a little shove in there. Give her a little there. All right, now. Got her. There I go. There I go. There you go.
Why did Bo and Luke treat the General Lee like an obstacle course, diving through windows instead of using perfectly functional door handles? According to the show, those doors were welded shut, stock car style, because safety. In the Duke's universe, the General Lee was built for speed and modeled after NASCAR races where welded doors were standard procedure. And honestly, after launching that poor Charger off every ramp in Georgia and California, structural reinforcement wasn't the worst idea. But here's where reality gets messy. They went through hundreds of General Lees during production, and most of them had working doors. Only the hero cars used for close-ups and certain stunt vehicles were actually sealed shut. The rest stayed operational because the crew needed to, get inside without dislocating a shoulder. Still, window entry became law on camera. Seeing a Duke boy open a door would have felt like watching Darth Vader parallel park. Technically possible, completely wrong vibe. Want to spot a blooper? Check out Season 2, Episode 1, Days of Shine and Roses. There's a split-second shot where Luke actually closes a door. Most people assume it was accidental. In Duke's mythology, that moment's rarer than a Roscoe arrest that sticks. Now, speaking of things that weren't what they seemed on camera, let's talk about the show's most underestimated performance. Number 5. Boss Hogg was secretly brilliant.
All right, Hogg, you've gone too far this time.
Roscoe!
What?
Don't tell me you're siding with them Dukes.
Yes, Enos saw you at the scene, and you had those things in your pocket, didn't you? Yeah, and Uncle Jesse there, he could have been hurt seriously.
This whole thing is ridiculous. I'm leaving.
Here at number 5, Sorrel Book played Boss Hogg like a cartoon villain dipped in butter and fried in corruption. But off-screen, the man was legitimately a genius. He was valedictorian of his high school, enrolled at Columbia at 16, and graduated at 19 before most people figure out their major. Then he grabbed a Master of Fine Arts from Yale, served as a counterintelligence officer during the Korean War, and somehow found time to become fluent in 6 languages: English, French, Japanese, Spanish, Russian, and Italian. Oh, and he was conversational in about half a dozen more, including Arabic, Mandarin, and Swedish, because apparently being a Yale-educated war vet polyglot wasn't quite impressive enough. Before Hazzard County, Book had already stacked up serious credentials: Broadway roles, an Emmy nomination, standout parts on MASH, Columbo, and All in the Family. But most of America only knows him as the corrupt good old boy in the white suit. Here's a twist. The role went to Book, who was only 5 feet 6 inches and weighed about 185 pounds during filming. To transform into Boss Hogg, he wore padding that expanded his waistline to 5 feet around. And that syrupy southern drawl. He modeled it after actual US Senators Sam Ervin and Strom Thurmond. The man literally researched real politicians to perfect his corrupt commissioner act. When the show wrapped in 1985, Book pivoted hard into voice acting. He lent his talents to Scooby-Doo, Captain Planet, and Bonkers. And because he was Sorrel Book, he also guest conducted the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. Naturally, he passed away in 1994 at 64, but his legacy endures, both as a classically trained actor and as the most memorable county commissioner to ever sweat through a 3-piece suit. Speaking of legacies, let's talk about what survived the show's most destructive habit. Number 4. The surviving General Lees are now priceless.
Sitting beside me here is a 1969 Dodge Charger, and it's a real deal General Lee that's one of the heroes in our August 9 to 19th online auction. Now this car is super special. The Dukes of Hazzard series was obviously hugely popular through the late 70s and early 80s.
Financial gut check time. The Dukes of Hazzard destroyed over 300 Dodge Chargers during its 7-year run, converting classic American muscle cars into disposable props for our entertainment. Today, only about 17 to 20 confirmed screen-used General Lees still exist, and their value astronomical. We're talking upwards of $250,000 for a genuine on-screen General Lee, depending on condition and jump history. That's not expensive car money. That's, I could buy a house in Ohio or own the car that once cleared a billboard money. In 2008, John Schneider sold one of his personal replica General Lees, not even a screen-used car, just a really solid copy he owned, for $230,000. But wait, it gets better. In 2012, golfer Bubba Watson dropped $110,000 on Lee 1, the very first General Lee from the pilot episode. That car went from jumping through barns to retirement in a climate-controlled garage funded by PGA Tour winnings. So yeah, that orange blur you watched every Friday night, it's now worth more than most people's first homes, student loan debt, and current vehicles combined. The show didn't just destroy cars, it accidentally created some of the most valuable TV memorabilia in existence. So that's what happened to the real General Lees. But there was another version of the show where the car could do even more impossible things. And yes, somehow that exists. Number 3, the cartoon version was absolutely bananas. Landing at number 3, the Dukes of Hazzard gave us moonshine runs, small-town corruption, and 2 cousins who avoided prison by driving fast and looking good doing it. Pure chaos wrapped in denim and orange paint. So naturally, when it came time for an animated version, someone asked, what if we kept all that but made it a globe-trotting race and added a raccoon? The Dukes premiered in 1983 with a completely unhinged premise. The Dukes enter an international automobile race to win prize money that'll save the family farm from foreclosure. Boss Hogg, Sheriff Roscoe, and Flash the Bloodhound join the race too, planning to cheat their way to victory and snatch up the Duke property in the process. Each episode opens with Uncle Jesse reading a letter out loud to his pet raccoon, Smokey, updating him on the latest racing drama. Because apparently in 1983, the target demographic for high-speed recap sessions was small woodland creatures. But wait, it gets weirder. When the cartoon launched, Bo and Luke were missing thanks to that contract dispute. So the animated series starred Coy and Vance, Byron Cherry and Christopher Mayer, those replacement cousins nobody asked for. For an entire season, kids watched animated Coy and Vance race across continents like they were the franchise's actual stars. Then Tom Wopat and John Schneider settled their beef with CBS, and boom, Coy and Vance evaporated at the start of season 2 while Bo and Luke materialized back in the driver's seat. No explanation, no goodbye montage, just a hard swap like a bad edit. The animation was classic Hanna-Barbera, meaning recycled running loops, physics-defying jumps, and the General Lee's Dixie horn blasting across every country from France to Fiji. And if things looked and sounded familiar, that's because this was the same studio behind Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones. They definitely recycled sound effects and background art across multiple shows that same Saturday morning. The Dukes only lasted 20 episodes across 2 seasons, but it delivered exactly what you'd expect from a Saturday morning adaptation. Slapstick action, ridiculous disguises, cartoon logic, and Uncle Jesse's raccoon companion who somehow made more narrative sense than Coy and Vance combined. At least, Smokey didn't get replaced after 1 season. Number 2. The stunt driver who could only go one way.
How they do that?
Ever notice something odd about those iconic 2-wheel driving stunts? Go back and watch any episode. The General Lee almost always tilts up on the driver's side with the passenger wheels staying grounded. Sheriff's cars, same thing. That wasn't creative choice or camera angles. That was all thanks to one legendary stunt driver, Buzz Bundy. Here's the twist. Buzz could physically only perform the stunt with the driver's side elevated. He tried going the opposite direction, but his body just couldn't do it. He compared it to being right-handed or left-handed, except instead of holding a pen, he was balancing 3,000 pounds of metal sideways at highway speeds. So whenever a script called for that particular stunt, directors faced 2 options. Rewrite the scene to accommodate Buzz's handedness, or find someone else crazy enough to attempt it the other way. Spoiler, they stuck with Buzz every time. His skill wasn't just rare, it was Hollywood elite territory. He became the go-to specialist for two-wheel stunts across the entire industry, pulling off the same incredible feat on Knight Rider, The Fall Guy, and countless action movies throughout the 80s. If you saw a car riding on two wheels during that era, odds are excellent that Buzz Bundy was behind the wheel making it happen. And when you compare his practical, no-safety net work to the equipment-assisted CGI stunts in the 2005 Dukes movies, there's no comparison. Buzz did it with pure skill, precision timing, and nerves that must have been made of steel cables. No rigs, no wires, no computer assistance, just one man and his absolutely bonkers talent. Buzz Bundy passed away in 2020, but his legacy lives in every two-wheeled stunt that made our childhood TV viewing feel like witnessing actual magic. Speaking of legacies, here's one the Duke boys snuck in when nobody was looking. Number 1. The stealth reunion that nobody saw coming.
My life in your hands. What? Damn thing's been stuck ever since I bought it.
Here's a piece of television trivia that probably sailed right past you unless you were really paying attention. In 2006, during Smallville's 5th season, there's an episode called Exposed, where a Kansas senator named Jack Jennings rolls up to the Kent farm. His ride? A 1968 Dodge Charger RT Blue instead of orange, but definitely General Lee adjacent. Here's where it gets good. Senator Jack Jennings was played by Tom Wopat, Luke Duke himself. And who was playing Jonathan Kent, the father figure greeting him? John Schneider, better known as Bo Duke. So you had both Duke boys reunited on screen 20 years later, with a Dodge Charger and car stunts happening in the background like the universe's most perfect Easter egg. Even Wopat's character name was a tribute. Jack Jennings was clearly a nod to Waylon Jennings, the show's narrator and the voice behind that iconic theme song. It was essentially a covert Dukes of Hazzard reunion disguised as a superhero procedural episode. The showrunners knew exactly what they were doing, crafting this perfect little moment for anyone who grew up watching Friday nights in Hazzard County. It was subtle enough that casual viewers wouldn't notice, but obvious enough that longtime fans absolutely caught it and felt like they'd stumbled onto buried treasure. That's the kind of meta-television magic that makes you appreciate the craft. No big announcement, no promotional campaign, just two old friends back together with a charger, and everyone who needed to know understood exactly what was happening. And there you have it, 15 facts proving the Dukes of Hazzard was every bit as wild, weird, and fascinating behind the scenes as it was on our TV screens. From oil tycoon actors to replacement cousins nobody remembers, from legendary stunt drivers to stealth reunions, Hazzard County delivered chaos both on and off camera. Which fact caught you completely off guard? Did you know about the Moonrunner's origin story? Were you today years old when you learned about Buzz Bundy's One Direction skill set? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We genuinely want to know what surprised you most. And hey, thanks for riding along through Hazzard County with us. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and we'll catch you in the next video. Y'all come back now, you hear?